Hello everyone, welcome to the latest in our series of educational webinars. In this one, we'll be looking at challenges and solutions to test the security of your application infrastructure using a combination of two solutions from Quali and Cypherpath. My name is Pascal Joly and I lead the technology partnerships at Quali. And I will be hosting today's webinar. I'm honored to be joined by two high-caliber professionals in the industry. Deepu Rathi, CMO at Cypherpath, who is with me in the room in Santa Clara, and Chuck Reynolds, CTO and founder at TSI, dialing in remote from sunny Florida. If you're a director of lab operations, QA, or dev test manager, cloud architect, or head of IT or data center infrastructure, you'll get a lot out of this webinar. Some of you may be trying to figure out how to balance the needs for speed and security when it comes to deploying your application, and we hope we can learn some valuable insight over the next hour.
Hello, I'm Deepu Rathi. I'm honored to partner for this webinar with Pascal and Chuck. We are looking forward to having an involved discussion on this topic with you today. We will start with a high-level introduction of each company during this webinar, that is Cypherpath, Quali, and technology systems integrators, followed by an interview of challenges, requirements, and example use cases that customers need to be aware of when considering cyber threat and security testing to assess and validate their applications and their IT production environments against such risks. We will then present an overall solution to easily design automated cyber threat and security test environments that are agile to evolve and modify, that support secure multi-tenancy, and can be deployed rapidly. We will also demo the solution for you. We will then end with some Q&A, so do be prepared with questions for us.
Now, I want to remind folks that we'll be giving out 3 $50 Amazon gift cards at the end of the webinar. 3 of you who have joined and stayed throughout will be selected from the list of attendees and notified via email that you've won. Also wanted to do a bit of housekeeping. So you will be muted during this session. However, feel free to just enter any questions you may have in the questions box. We have a panel of experts that will be present to answer questions during the course of the presentation, and we'll try to get to as many as possible during the Q&A at the end. Okay, so to start, I want to give you just a brief introduction to Quali and who we are. So Quali is a venture-funded startup focused on cloud automation and orchestration. Our core technology is centered around the notion of cloud sandboxing, which allows creating replicas of production or otherwise complex environment delivered as a service for a variety of use cases. We have just over 300 customers worldwide, including major service providers, NEMs, and enterprise across healthcare, Fiserv, and government. Now, I'll have Deepu introduce Cypherpath.
Cypherpath is also a venture-funded startup. We are focused on enabling the creation and deploying of on-demand software-defined infrastructures for labs, data centers, private and hybrid clouds, and edge computing nodes. This is achieved by our product offering called Cypherpath SDIOS. SDIOS is a distributed multi-tenant modern enterprise operating system that loads to bare metal. It natively brings together compute, virtualization, networking, and storage into a hyperconverged cloud-like scalable stack, all in software. It enables scale-out designs of cloud-like workload environments that are agile, secure, and portable. SDIOS deploys on x86 compute that can be on-premise or on clouds that support bare metal compute. Customers can choose the underlying hardware infrastructure and also the software environments that they want to deploy. Over the last 6 months, we have won awards in the cloud and data center category for being the most innovative product and also being the most easy to use offering. Now Chuck will introduce TSI next.
It is our pleasure to be hosting this webinar with our close partners of Cypherpath and Quali. TSI is a value-added reseller and systems integrator for leading solutions in as-a-service areas, supporting a wide range of small to the largest entities. We have security clearances in place to support DoD-based customers and have started cyber testing initiatives in telecom, power and energy, healthcare, financial, and enterprise customers. We provide subject matter experts, assessment audits of their environment, professional services, full training and support on our products and services, as we have for the past 28 years. You can visit our webpage for specific use cases for the wide range of solutions noted here. Our customers are the leading entities in their market segments, and we invite you to reach out to us and them for more information on how we can leverage the solutions we have made for your company.
So it's hard to avoid a day without hearing about some level of internet security breach. Cyber attack is a $400 billion per year problem and growing based on a recent Presidio survey. Enterprises are continually facing a growing onslaught of cyber security attacks and risks, and will go out of the way to avoid media coverage. Think of last December's Yahoo password breach that happened right before they announced the company was acquired by Verizon. Talk about bad timing. This affected 1 billion accounts and cost the company north of $250 million as they were negotiating the deal with Verizon. Ouch. Who should be concerned? Cyber threats and security testing is a cross-industry need, but it is felt very acutely in the financial, government, and healthcare sectors. So why is this so hard to simply mitigate risks and be proactive? First, applications are becoming more complex and sophisticated, incorporating new technologies, but at the same time needing to integrate with legacy systems. Since complexity also stems from constant changes and updates, making sure that each new release of an application remains compliant to security standards is no small feat. One of the driving factors of the complexity also relates to the ever-expanding choice of workload production deployment environments. Over 60% of workloads are going to be hosted in private, hybrid, or public cloud environments over the next 5 years, and applications are expected to scale in these environments to match peak load cycles. These trends are driving the need to consider computing at the edge to offload exponentially growing data sets in the public cloud. Then we also have a defining alternative to build the next generation apps using containers instead of heavy-set virtual machines. Which one is more secure? What is the performance implication? That's a lot of potential permutations to deal with. Now we hear that demand for companies to deliver new services rapidly is driving agility in application development. Over 25% of the global 2,000 IT organizations are adopting DevOps for bringing apps into production IT. Yet very few can claim they are releasing at a fast pace. According to a recent DevOps survey, 33% of the participants shared it takes them between 1 week and a month to set up infrastructure for the application tester. As a direct result, when asked, most firms do not know how well their cyber and security testing environments represent their real production IT infrastructure. Now, Deepu will go over some of the key criteria IT and DevOps teams should consider to help overcome these issues.
As Pascal mentioned, a key requirement for cyber threat security testing environments is that they should be able to emulate IT production environments so that the resulting testing can effectively validate and certify that the business applications and the production environments are protected from security breaches. These testing environments also need to be agile and flexible so that they can be rapidly deployed and modified. Cyber threats and security attacks are dynamic in nature. Therefore, the test environments need to be updated dynamically too, to keep pace with changing threat vectors, security demands, regulations, and new risks. Furthermore, these test environments need to be automated and available on demand to mitigate rapidly new and existing threats. The other key IT considerations highlighted in the slide are also important to address. I would like to highlight a few of them. These test environments can be very complicated. Therefore, it is important that the underlying products used should have an easy-to-use visual user interface to design, model, and deploy the test environment at scale. These products should be also providing RESTful APIs to enable integration and automation. It is also important that these test environments be multi-tenanted so that they can support cyber threat exercises like red team and blue team scenarios. This will also require that these environments themselves be secure and support strong isolation between tenants and workloads. It is also important to be able to monitor and collect testing data for analysis, mitigation identification, and reporting. Customers may also need to consider multiple deployment choices for such test environments, such as labs, data centers, private, hybrid, or public clouds, and edge computing nodes. As you select products to build your cyber threat and security test environments, it is very important that you keep these requirements in mind. Now Chuck will take you through some example use cases.
Here are some example use cases we've found for this technology. Delivering the self-service catalogs of cyber ranges for emulating the production environments for cyber and security testing in the DevOps lifecycle. An additional use case of developing self-service portals for delivering cyber training exercises, development and testing, and online training. Another use case is the full cause and effect cyber attack simulations for full security, compliance, and resiliency testing. And lastly, an additional use case of building and testing cyber test and validation environments for NFV and virtual customer premise equipment infrastructure for telecoms for testing and DevOps supports of those environments. So to facilitate this, TSI has worked with our vendors and our major customers to develop a security test bed or test bench environment based on technology from Quali-Ixia and Cypherpath, utilizing the strength of each vendor's offerings to deliver a single pane of glass environment for building, deploying, and consuming complex test benches for support of DevOps, traditional test, and cybersecurity. We have named it TQIC for the vendors involved, TSI, Quali-Ixia, and Cypherpath. Utilizing the APIs and the abilities of these tools, we are able to deliver an easy-to-administer and easy-to-use tool set to rapidly build, deploy, and use, for example, Ixia virtual and/or physical testing tools, along with the system or devices under test, so that the user concerned with cyber test initiatives can rapidly control and perform cyber testing functions in a fraction of the time it typically takes. This methodology can support cyber exercises, cyber training missions, traditional training, and complete online training, all with hyperconverged abilities to use the minimal set of hardware needed to support these complex infrastructures. By using generic hardware, we can deliver powerful amounts of infrastructure virtually so that costs can be drastically reduced by up to 95% for the environments. I will now turn the presentation over to Dipu to give you a deeper view of the specific features and functions of the Cypherpath portion of our solution.
The Cypherpath SDI-OS product offering is used to define, deploy, and run the virtual infrastructure, software, and applications of this test environment developed using the TQIC solution. Cypherpath SDI-OS product is a software offering, as I mentioned. It deploys on x86 compute systems, on-premise or on clouds that support bare metal compute. Customers can choose their underlying compute, storage, and networking hardware infrastructure that they want to deploy on. Also, customers can choose the software environments to run on SDI-OS. For example, they can run Linux and Microsoft OS applications. They can also run virtual machines of any format and containers too. They can also run all these environments concurrently on the same deployment environment. Cypherpath SDI-OS has a large validated partner ecosystem that provides many virtual appliances and tools. These virtual offerings can be easily integrated into your workload environment and deployed on SDI-OS. Cypherpath SDI-OS is a distributed multi-tenant enterprise modern operating system that deploys all a workload's entire IT infrastructure and software. For each workload, it natively brings together compute, virtualization, networking, storage, applications, and their underlying software environments into a hyperconverged, cloud-like, scalable stack in software. Each Cypherpath-defined cloud-like workload environment is encapsulated as a single standalone software file, which is called Cloud as a File, that can be deployed on a server or a cluster and run instantly with a single click. In the context of the seminar, a workload environment can be, for example, a cyber range or security test environment. Cypherpath SDIOS has been architected to provide enhanced security and strong isolation between concurrent workload environments deployed on it. Cypherpath SDIOS is being used to deploy the cyber ranges and security test environments of the U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. intelligence agencies, and U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the National Guard. It is also being used by similar organizations in other countries. Over the last 18 months, we are seeing enterprise customers using Cypherpath SDIOS to design and deploy cyber ranges and security environments, and also virtualized data centers and private clouds. Recently, we became a validated IBM Bluemix partner and have deployed on IBM SoftLayer. All our customers are seeing significant benefits by using Cypherpath SDIOS. In particular, they are seeing significant reduction in time from concept to production deployment of their workload environments. They are seeing enhanced agility and flexibility in the scale-out designs of the deployed workload environments. They are experiencing significant increase in productivity due to the easy-to-use and automation capabilities of the SDIOS. And they are also seeing significant improvement in total cost of ownership for their deployed use cases. SDIOS also supports what you see is what you get type visual user interface used for on-demand design, configuration, and one-click deployment. It also supports RESTful APIs to enable integration with other products. These RESTful APIs are used in the current solution that we're going to demo today. Both these interfaces support self-provisioning, auto-provisioning, and automation of the deployed cloud-like workload environment. Cypherpath SDIOS also provides online dashboards and monitoring capabilities for administrators and users to manage their cloud-like workload environment deployments. RESTful APIs and also provide and enable integration with other automation, monitoring, reporting, and analytical tools. A key concept enabled by Cypherpath SDIOS is that you design and develop your workload environment once. Then using SDIOS's cloud as a file capability, you can easily deploy or port the workload environment to a variety of on-premise or off-premise locations. This allows customers to easily replicate workload environments with full consistency in different locations, create hybrid cloud deployments, on-demand create or update workload environments of distributed edge compute nodes, and create backups and quickly recover in case of failures. As I mentioned earlier, Cypherpath SDIOS defined cloud-like workload environment as a single standalone software file, which is called Cloud as a File. What we call in short form a CAF, C-A-A-F. Each CAF captures and stores for each workload environment the following: the full software-defined infrastructure configuration specifics, the full software-defined networking specifics, the software environment specifics, the application and its deployment specifics. Due to the detailed capture of this information, a CAF has all the information that is needed to quickly bring up in minutes the full workload environment when a CAF is loaded and activated with one click. Once Cypherpath SDIOS creates this CAF, it has all the properties of a file. You can edit and save them. This capability is used to easily create a similar but slightly modified version of an already designed workload environment. This provides needed agility and flexibility when creating new workload environments or updating a workload environment. Save is also helpful in saving copies for backup and recovery. Incremental snapshotting is also supported by Cypherpath. You can copy and clone them. This capability is very helpful when customers want to replicate the same workload environment in the same location or a different location. This is also used to port workload environments to other locations. It can also be used to share workload environments with collaborators. Each CAF is secure. It can also be further encrypted by the customer. With Cypherpath SDIOS, scale-out deployments can be easily and quickly created by racking and stacking underlying hardware infrastructure. Cypherpath SDIOS can dynamically provision this additional capacity by using its auto-provisioning capability and admin-defined resource allocation policies for the workload environments deployed. Similarly, if capacity needs to be reduced, then it can gracefully reduce the allocated resources. Cypherpath SDIOS has been architected to provide enhanced security and strong isolation between concurrent workload environments deployed on it. This is very important, specifically for deploying cyber ranges and security test environments, so that malware software and other security test tools can be used without impacting other workloads concurrently deployed. This is also needed to effectively run red team and blue team type cyber test exercises. This is also needed for supporting cybersecurity training and other use cases. Our customers are seeing several benefits when using Cypherpath's SDIOS product offering. For example, they see a very improved total cost of ownership. They see a significantly improved they see a significant improvement in workload deployment times from concept to production. They also see a dramatic enhancement in productivity.
So now I'll go over Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell is Quali's flagship product, and I will give you an overview of its capabilities in the next slides. So let's review more in detail the core concept around Cloud Sandbox. So Cloud Sandbox defines the environment an application tester will use to validate a specific use case. It includes the physical and virtual infrastructure, application workload, virtualized data, test tools, and services. For instance, your test tools could include an Ixia traffic generator and the Ixia breaking point for security testing, and for instance, Nagios for monitoring. A sandbox may be deployed in any cloud, including Cypherpath, vCenter, OpenStack, Azure, and AWS. Finally, sandboxes can be activated through RESTful API and triggered by a DevOps pipeline tool like Jenkins or Bamboo, or accessed through an end-user self-service portal. So what does it take to create a sandbox? A designer or architect will first build an inventory of all the physical assets using auto-discovery tools to speed up the process. Then the admin will model network, cloud providers such as the Cypherpath Cloud API endpoint, application components, tools and services that are part of the infrastructure. From this list of assets, a blueprint designer can easily create a blueprint using simple drag and drop onto a web canvas and add automation and orchestration as needed. Once the blueprint has been created, it can be published to a self-service catalog that is accessible for the end users. An end user can now pick a blueprint and deploy the latest version of the application under test to Sandbox using the cloud of their choice. The system includes out-of-the-box networking for layer 1 through layer 3, and once a sandbox is deployed, it becomes an active environment. Also included with the solution is a set of advanced BI capabilities to report on resource consumption, providing visibility and control on infrastructure utilization. And this overall flow is applicable through a variety of use cases, from lab as a service, including CyberRange and certification, to cloud application migration and CI/CD continuous testing for DevOps. So the process of creating a blueprint is really quite simple, and Chuck will illustrate that further during the demo. It is based on the premise that the application designer should be able to just drag and drop elements from a resource and app catalog onto the canvas, could be physical or virtual assets, and connect them just like you would draw on a diagram in Visio or even on napkin. Each element has pre-configured automation capabilities, and once the layout is complete, all you have to do is publish it to the self-service catalog so that it becomes available to all users for consumption. The next stage is for an end user to deploy a blueprint from the catalog and turn it into an active sandbox. So let's go over an example. In this topology, we represent a CyberRange environment used as a security training platform. This environment is composed of an application with several tiers and infrastructure services, such as mail and file server, that will be configured at setup time by the Cloud Shell orchestration. All the virtual components have been deployed in the Cypherpath cloud and automatically connected using VLAN networks. There are also a set of test tools used to simulate an attack and detect the intrusion, such as Ixia breaking point and Snort intrusion detection server. A user might launch an attack, then run the analysis, and reconfigure some devices with updated security policies as part of an automation workflow that may be interactive or API-driven. Another critical aspect for the admin user is to get visibility on how resources are being consumed. Our solution provides the ability to run advanced interactive reports and give insight on virtual and physical resource consumption over time. This is key. This is a key component to ensure that your assets are being used at the most efficient rate and the lowest cost. For instance, I'd like to find out how many VMs were deployed over on my Cypherpath cloud the last months, from which sandbox and by whom. Or what is the trend of the capacity consumption over the last 6 months. Other types of reports available out of the box include the test result dashboard to provide a single pane of glass into your application certification.
Thank you, Pascal and Zaku, for a great overview of both Cypherpath and Quali Cloud Shell product. TSI now provides the glue to this whole process with our TQIC solution. As a reseller and subject matter experts for Quali and Cypherpath and Ixia, we're uniquely qualified to build out the solution. We provide API automation to connect the tools to leverage each vendor's strengths into a solution that is easy to deploy and easy to use. TSI provides training, installation, and API automation to facilitate the solution, as well as out-of-the-box test bench clouds for Quali and Ixia to rapidly deploy the solution. I would now like to go over the details behind the solution so you can understand the technology that drives this new level of service for cyber test bench delivery. The TQIC architecture consists of Cypherpath installed on generic x86 servers, along with appropriate compute, memory, and storage underneath it to support it. Note that we can have multiple nodes, and they are all hyperconverged into a single pool of resources for use among all clouds within Cypherpath. The Quali Cloud Shell environment is installed in its own cloud within Cypherpath or externally, then can be opened up to other users and other clouds within Cypherpath under Cypherpath's multi-tenancy support. Then all operations are controlled from within Cloud Shell to open blueprints from catalogs, which in turn will access and build clouds within Cypherpath to include Ixia test benches, cyber ranges, and other virtual cloud infrastructures. You can even add in physical resources as needed so the hybrid test benches can be deployed easily across your organization. So let's take a look at the end-to-end solution flow for the admin and application designer. For the administrator, install Cypherpath SDI OS in 15 minutes or less onto bare metal. Optionally, this can be done in IBM Bluemix as well for an off-premise supported install. Multiple nodes are added simply by installing the software on additional generic hardware platforms, and the resources from each server are added to the overall pool of CPU and memory. Next, the application or DevOps designers can build automation in whatever tool they wish, including Cloud Shell's non-coding environment or in native Python or any other typical automation environment that is supported by Cloud Shell. Next, we can incorporate those automations and blueprints into catalogs for the end users and resources for the end users so they can create standard templates of things like cyber ranges, Ixia test benches, and other infrastructures to have them ready to be deployed in seconds for most end users. And then lastly, the admins can then access the Cloud Shell Business Intelligence dashboards called Insight that allows them to monitor all the VM resources and consumption of those resources by almost any parameter within the environment. Now, looking at it from the end user's perspective, the end-to-end solution flow here, first the user can log into a secure portal where he or she is given access to only the catalogs and infrastructure they are entitled to consume. Both Cloud Shell and CypherPath supports all the multi-tenancy ability to have different domains set up. Then they access a blueprint in Cloud Shell and reserve it for their use with automatic conflict checking for resources. The CypherPath infrastructure cloud is spun up during the setup phase, and in seconds or minutes, the entire cyber range or cloud infrastructure is up and running. The user then reads the instructions for running the desired workflow for the infrastructure with easy-to-use HTML5 embedded instructions. The user can then operate within a single pane of glass, accessing all the resources within their sandbox, no matter the method required to access each instance. The user can run standard tests, run provisioning automation, and any other automation or configuration management activities to support their workflow. And lastly, then when finished, the sandbox is shut down, the VMs are turned off, the resources in CypherPath are returned to the pool of hyperconverged resources, all automatically without the need of admin support to manage or control the teardown and shutdown of those VM resources. All right. So, due to our limited amount of time here, I'm going to just give you a glimpse of the power of the TQIC solution. Let's get started, shall we? So first, what I'm going to do is basically show you how a typical cyber range user might build an Ixia test bench in Cloud Shell using CypherPath virtual machines and a CypherPath cloud, along with physical resources to build a hybrid test network for doing some cyber exercises, testing, or training. Then we'll take a look at some larger exercises and training topologies to show you what can be done rapidly and from reuse perspective. So now we'll just switch over to my machine here and change presenters so that I can do a demonstration.
We first open Cloud Shell, and based on our credentials, we have access to the appropriate domains and resources so that we are secure in our cyber environment. We have multi-tenancy supports and can review different catalogs of clouds in our solution that are ready to go. Let's go ahead and go down to the Cyber Shield catalog and then pick the Cyber Blank Canvas that is actually a template that has predefined instructions on how to build our test bench range in this case. Once we open the blueprint, we see there are instructions and videos on how this gets started. These are user-definable and easy to build for our admin automation engineers, fully supporting HTML5, embedding videos, and PowerPoints. Let's drop in a few apps which will configure and deploy some virtual machines in CypherPath to build our Ixia test bench. We will be using Virtual Breaking Point with its controller virtual machine and one virtual blade in our sample test bench. So I'll grab the Breaking Point controller, I'll grab a blade. We can then easily connect the two by just clicking the connection icon. We could then add a Linux VM, a Ubuntu one, for access to the CypherPath Breaking Point web portal. And in addition to that, we can add physical devices. We click on Resource and go look for particular resources. We might find some switches that we have, and maybe we'd like to test a particular switch. So I'm going to grab this Zone 0 physical switch, a Cisco switch, and then I can connect that up in a similar fashion. Rather than completing this particular template, I'm going to switch at this time to another template that's already configured and ready to reserve. Here you can see we added a firewall, renamed our workstation Ubuntu, added some storage, and connected up both of our ports from the breaking point blade to the zone 0 switch. We can now reserve it, and this will set up and provision the environment. Once the blueprint template is finished, instructions are updated, and we've reserved it, the API will take over and create the resources in Cypherpath and Cloud Shell to be used in our test bench or workflow activities. Once the sandbox is active, we can now see commands that are available in the resources to do workflow activities, and we can now open up the breaking point environment with a single click and doing more complex activities, such as opening its web interface, creating a new breaking point session, choosing and picking a test once it comes up, and we'll start that test that will do some traffic testing as well as security and strike testing against our switch, the device under test. So we'll click test, open a recent test. Once the test starts, we'll come back to it in a little bit since it takes some time to get that test running. Now I'd like to switch over to this network diagram that shows a more complex environment, which is a full cyber exercise range. Here we might have hundreds or even more players involved, which makes management of the entire environment quite complex. Note that all the switches, servers, and clients are quite substantial and in different zones. If I switch back to our Cloud Shell environment and go back to our catalogs, I can bring up this particular environment, and we can see that all of the devices that were in our diagram are now here inside of our blueprint. Note the zone 0 switch is here as well. Zone 2, 3, 4, firewalls, machines, quite a number of things are available here in this environment, as well as breaking point. What's interesting to see is that since we have hundreds of users, it might be confusing for certain users and players within this environment to have access to everything. They really should just have access to particular pieces of this infrastructure, and Cloud Shell supports all of that. If you notice out here in our Cyber Shield, we have other catalog blueprints available that represent pieces of the entire cyber range. For example, Zone 3 is just the PCs and Linux boxes connected to the Zone 3 switch. If I click on that, you can see that we have that exact environment with our Zone 3 switch connected to 5 Linux, 5 Windows 10, and 5 Windows 7 boxes ready to go. If we go back to our Cyber Protection Team blueprint of the entire thing, we can now reserve that, and then it will actually spin up the virtual pieces in Cypherpath, and physical pieces will be made available as well. Note that there's a conflict because we'd already used the Zone 0 switch in a previous blueprint sandbox, but since we're admin here, we'll go ahead and reserve it with conflicts. Normal users would have to wait and go to the next time slot so that conflicts are automatically resolved with both virtual and physical resources. Notice now that we have commands on each one of these particular items. So high-level controls and drivers and automation and workflow activities can be presented to users without the expertise of the devices. So here I can do all of my Cisco switch commands just by clicking them on the right-hand side in my command area. Notice that there's also a Cypherpath cloud resource And the cloud resource can also have a TQIC provided admin driver that can talk back to the Cypherpath cloud in order to get us results and information about the cloud. This is done through our RESTful API interface, so we can actually get the list of resources, users, tenancies, clouds, and manage everything from inside of Cloud Shell as an admin. I can also just directly go into the software-defined infrastructure operating system pane of glass so that I can see what my results are, what's being used, how much memory is being used, and the entire environment. Notice also in some of the clouds here that the entire Cloud Shell server environment can also be in a cloud inside of Cypherpath, making for easy deployment of Cloud Shell as well. We also have full status and information here on all of the usage and all the statistics that's going on within the entire virtualized system. So we can monitor that, and this is available also with a RESTful interface for full capacity automation and control. At this point, I can now probably go back to our breaking point session and see that our test actually failed because we had lots of strikes. So if I take a look at my attacks, we can see that we had quite a number of attacks out here that made it through. Some were blocked, but many did not. So I need to go back and analyze what happened at my switch and change the policies and information on it so that it does a better job in cyber protection. Lastly, all this information is captured inside of Cloud Shell in our Insight dashboards for business intelligence. So we can look at user information, we can look at inventory information, we can look at all of the different resources, physical and virtual, as well as automation tests and automation suites, controlling all of our physical and Cypherpath virtual environment. That's it for a very short but hopefully informative demonstration of what is possible with our TQIC solution. So let's go ahead and review what the benefits are for our solution.
So, in summary, using the TQIC solution can provide basically 4 main benefits to your organization. Number 1, a dramatic increase in the velocity of infrastructure delivery. Organizations routinely report savings of up to over 70% in their deployment cycles once they've automated the process of allocating devices, device and virtual memory, virtual machine provisioning, running automation and test processes, and generating reports. 2, the significant savings in infrastructure CapEx and OpEx. Organizations deploying lifecycle infrastructure automation software report increases of 50 to 200% in device utilization, leading to capital budget savings, less depreciation waste, as well as accompanying savings in power, space, and cooling costs. And 3, with automation comes built-in documentation of automation processes, since the object-oriented method of creating, modifying, and maintaining template elements creates an ongoing and live documentation for process composition and methodology. Automated equipment maintenance processes with documented schedules provide proof of compliance of the testing environment. Automated results analysis offers robust reporting that offers solid proof of compliance and compliance efforts. And lastly, the increase in the confidence that your application and or your production infrastructure will perform as per your requirements will be a large boost to all in the organization, building teamwork among your developer community, management, and customers. Decreasing the risk of cyber-related issues will allow your development teams to focus on developing differentiating features instead of focusing on protection of your entity's brand or integrity. Working in environments with lower risk is a boon to productivity across your organization and your customers.
Hopefully, you find the TQIC solution that we discussed to be very interesting for your own cyber threat and security testing needs. There is also very good additional collateral available from Cyberpath, Quali, and TSI for you to further leverage. As you consider your cyber threat and security testing deployments, you can sort of find this collateral on the links shown on the slide.
So before we jump into Q&A, I wanted to announce our next webinar on April 12th about continuous testing, and you can register now at quali.com. So let's spend the last few minutes on Q&A. I will remind everyone to fill out our latest DevOps survey following the link on that page to be entered in a drawing where you can win a $100 Amazon gift card. So let's see our first question. What does it take to deploy this solution? Chuck, do you want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So a couple different ways. One, you can just go to IBM Bluemix and select it, install it, and do it all off-prem. Or you can download it directly from our website. It takes about 15 minutes to install. You can start dragging and dropping VMs, ISOs, VDMKs, whatever, into your infrastructure, and then start building that immediately. We also have ready-to-go clouds of Quali Cloud Shell and Ixia test benches, which are single files to download and start using, with licensing, of course.
All right, thanks. Let me see the next one. Does this solution require special hardware? Deepu, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. The software-defined architecture can be installed on any generic x86 hardware. It's really the customer's choice on selecting the vendors for compute, storage, and networking for the underlying hardware infrastructure.
All right. Let me see the next one. What automation testing tools do you support? Let me take care of that one. So you can really use any framework that you wish. Quali provide a visual-oriented approach called Test Shell, or you can use Python Robot, for example. Let me take one more question. How much effort to build a cyber ranch using this solution? Chuck?
Well, it's really quite easy. You can assemble all the components and deploy them. Basically, most appliances in a cyber range today have virtual machine copies, so you can just download them to use them. Don't forget that the licenses of these VMs are there to be purchased. Some groups have forgotten this.
All right. I don't think we have any other questions. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending, and thanks to Deepu and Chuck for their participation. I hope you all learned something new today. And yes, we will share with you the recording of this webinar over the next couple of days.